Here's to 2024, the return of the solar feminine. The return of the solar feminine. So there's a very misconstrued concept in our society where we have dichotomies like on, off, sun, moon, day, night, good, evil, light, dark, yin, yang. We have a lot of dichotomies in life, like extremes of like binary thinking. And we also have feminine and masculine, and matriarchy and patriarchy. In order for matriarchy to balance patriarchy out, we don't need more feminine energy to balance masculine energy, or because in nature, these energies are already balanced. There's approximately 50% women and 50% men being born. These are more or less balanced, but the problem is we've assigned men to the sun and women to the moon. So the masculine energy is assigned to the openness of the daylight, and the feminine energy is assigned to the darkness, hidden nighttime. And this is a false gender construct. So if you reverse it, because right now we have solar masculine energy and lunar feminine energy. So we've got a balance, but one energy is existing in a very covert and underhanded way, and the other energy is allowed to exist in almost like an overly direct way, an overly fiery way that actually can be, any extreme can be too destructive. So the elemental fire, solar energy, is when it's at its extreme, is very destructive, warlike basically, which is nuclear weapons blowing up the planet in fire basically. And the extreme of the lunar energy, the lunar feminine, is manipulation, so extreme covert manipulation. I think a lot of computer programmers are men, and they're kind of hidden, they're covert, they're working from home. It's like that's the lunar masculine role, where they're doing masculine work, which is like the logical left brain work, like programming and stuff. It's very covert and underhanded, which is why actually we have a lot of manipulation and lack of privacy through our computers too. Any of these extreme roles, like you have too much lunar masculine energy, you have the masculine energy becoming extremely manipulative. You have like the Bill Gates underhandedly keeping people in fear, spying on people. The masculine energy is taking on the extreme of the lunar feminine in this case. So we have too much solar masculine and too much lunar feminine. In order to bring these dichotomies into balance, we don't need necessarily more feminine energy to balance masculine energy. What we need is more solar feminine to balance the solar masculine energy. And we need more lunar masculine energy to balance the lunar feminine. Because the only energy we have allowed to be solar for so long is the masculine energy. When women become solar, they confuse this energy with behaving like men. And then when men take on the lunar role, they confuse this energy with behaving like women. So men think that in order to embody lunar energy, they have to be feminine. And women think that in order to embody solar energy, they have to be masculine. And this is, nothing could be further from the truth. The solar feminine energy doesn't manifest the same way that the solar masculine energy manifests. And the lunar masculine energy does not manifest the same way as the lunar feminine energy. For example, let's take the ancient text from the Bible. You have King David would be a perfect example of solar masculine energy. He's a warrior that fights Goliath the giant, and he's a hero. That's solar masculine energy in its most like direct definition, which is a warrior. So where is the solar feminine energy? Obviously the Bible is it's a masculine patriarchal book where it's only the word of testicles, testes, or you don't have the word of the ovaries or the overman or whatever. So King David's balance would actually be Queen Diva. But what is Queen Diva? Queen Diva is not a Amazonian warrior that slaughters people and fights people in battle. Queen Diva, the solar feminine energy, is actually song and dance. So that's what do women do better at? Women aren't going to be better warriors than men because men are stronger, and testosterone makes them fight actually more. So the solar feminine energy is not going to manifest the same way as the solar masculine energy. People who are elementally ruled by fire signs, and not that your sun sign, your astrological sign is necessarily what you're ruled by, but it usually is. So if you're a fire sign like an Aries, a Leo, or a Sagittarius, you are going to embody the fire elemental better, whether you are a man or a woman. If you look at all the diva queens in our society, You look at Britney Spears, she's a Sagittarius. Lady Gaga is an Aries. Those are fire signs. Madonna is a Leo. Jennifer Lopez is a Leo. Taylor Swift and Nicki Minaj are fire signs, Sagittarius. Nancy Pelosi was a speaker, and she is an Aries, a fire sign. So the people who naturally take spotlights, but whether they're men or women, are fire signs because elementally they embody that energy better. Fire likes to shine. It likes to be in the spotlight. It's comfortable with that. That the solar feminine energy is not the same thing as the solar masculine energy. So the solar masculine energy is warriors, fighters. On a lighter note, the solar masculine energy as a performer can embody comedy and laughter a little bit better because the masculine energy is playful. And so the playful energy, laughter is actually very healing too. Politicians and speakers, this is not like specifically masculine or feminine, even though it's manifested as a false gender construct in our society, but the masculine solar will also be a speaker. The solar feminine isn't really talked about very often. We've had such a distortion of the truth because we've only had when you only allow patriarchal energy to be accepted and the matriarchal energy to be put down. So for a while, like we were attacking the singers and dancers that were famous, the diva queens, because they were dancing, they were being sexy. People like seeing women dance better because of the roundness and the curvature of their bodies. Women are more flexible. The estrogen makes them more flexible. Testosterone gives you more muscles. The solar feminine isn't really talked about very often, and it's a very important concept to consciously recognize in order to not mistreat women who behave solar. So for example, because the solar feminine would be women embodying dancing and singing openly and in respect. So just as much as we respect the military, we respect warriors, we have this respect for King David. Whereas Queen Diva, she's not respected. That's like, in our culture, it's almost like a joke. Like, oh, that's a laughable joke, like a drag queen or something. No, the solar feminine is equally as important as the solar masculine. Because without beauty, without song, without dance, where's your health? So you're only going to have war, death, fighting, stress, anxiety. When the solar masculine becomes imbalanced, you have narcissism, you have just really neither the solar masculine or the solar feminine is wrong or right. Just like patriarchy in and of itself is not bad. Patriarchy is only a problem when it's not properly balanced. All solar energy is the energy that you embody that you do best at. So the solar, assigning men to the sun and women to the moon is a false gender construct that was designed to cause women to take a supporting role and only allow men to be leaders. So every dichotomy, like I said, that exists, like the yin and the yang, people assign men to the yang and women to the yin. While some people are more covert naturally and some people are more overt, or some people are fiery and more, as other people are more hidden in depth like watery, it's not necessarily a masculine and feminine trait. This is just like a false gender construct. Trying to create this gender construct would be like, there's a little tiny white dot in the black yang, and there's a tiny black dot in the white yang, and so that would be like saying men are awake for 22 hours of the day and they only get to sleep for that little dot time for 2 hours, and women have to be sleeping for 22 hours and only be awake for 2 hours. Just because we have like these dichotomies that exist in a lot of areas of our lives doesn't mean gender represents every dichotomy that exists. It doesn't mean you assign men to black and women to white, or men to the light and women to the dark, or men to the righteous and women to the evil, or men to the sun and women to the moon. The reason we have these separate words, masculine and feminine, are because they are separate dichotomies of their own that embody their own type of energy, which don't necessarily cross transfer on every dichotomy that exists. There has been such a large amount of manipulation through false gender constructs over thousands of years, reiterated through religion and language, designed to subliminally program people since the time they're babies, that many people have decided to throw out gender altogether and use the term gender fluid. In order for matriarchy to return, we have to have more women embodying solar energy, and then we have to have more men embodying lunar energy. All lunar energy is saying that you are taking a supportive role or a more like just a more like laid back role. And solar energy is like you're being more direct. And while certain elementals embody these energies easier than others, nobody can constantly embody the fire energy or the solar energy. And nobody's going to be constantly embodying the lunar energy. That would be like sleeping all the time or being awake all the time. If you always embody the solar energy, you would become burned out, which is what's happened to the patriarchy. The patriarchy is burned out, which is why they're at war. We're literally burning our planet up because we have exhausted the patriarchy. The patriarchy needs to become masculinism to balance the feminism, which is like the lunar role. The masculinism is like the lunar masculine, and the feminism is like the lunar feminine. And so matriarchy is the solar feminine, balancing the patriarchy, the solar masculine. Think about like a relationship, any relationship, it's like nobody takes the spotlight 100% of the time. Wisdom is knowing when to know what you are good at the areas that you're good at. When do you take the spotlight, and when do you step aside and let somebody else take the spotlight and take a supporting role? And we all have to do that. So if you looked at like the family structure in the 1950s, the solar role was the women in the house. So that was the center. And that's when the husband came home and took a supportive role and would provide for the wife and the children. The men would maybe take a lunar role in the house, but then when they went out and work, they would take a solar role. Just consciously acknowledging when we take solar and lunar roles is actually really important, so that people don't make these false gender constructs where you have like, for a while in like a lot of Marvel movies, or I noticed in a lot of movies in the last 20 years, because they were trying to get women to be solar, but they didn't really know how, they were basically turning women into these Amazonian warriors that were just like slaughtering people and shooting people and basically behaving like men. You can have men that, like Michael Jackson was a great singer and a great dancer, but he wasn't solar masculine. He was taking on solar feminine energy. And you can have women that can be great warriors and fighters. But generally speaking, the feminine energy isn't going to embody that more often. You can have role reversals like this, but they should be true to the nature of the person. And that's the problem, is we were making these false gender constructs because we didn't understand, hey, when women embody solar energy, you have to have matriarchal values to allow women to embody solar feminine energy. So you have to value the areas that women excel at. Perfect example of a solar feminine society was gypsy culture, where the women would make most of the money when they were dancers. And so as a result, in a solar feminine culture, they valued daughters over sons because the daughter was seen as the income maker. And so all the men took supporting roles. And I'm not saying either extreme is good or bad. I'm just explaining what solar feminine energy is and the return of the solar feminine, which is the return of matriarchy. Men as sons. We've been programmed to accept this reality by artificially constructing gender and assigning men to the sun and women to the moon. In several Native American cultures, and I'm pretty sure around the world, it was the opposite. Women were assigned to the sun, and men were thought to be actually the moon. I know this existed in Germanic cultures, and I know it existed in some Native American cultures. So until they were overridden by Christianity. So a lot of Native women are angry because in order for their tribes to be recognized, they were forced to have a male leader speak for them so that they could be recognized by the governmental structure of the United States, which, as we know, going back 100 years, almost maybe 104 years, women weren't even able to vote until the 19th Amendment. 1919 is when it came out. When people say, oh, well, look at all these other tribes and leaders, they're male leaders, what they don't realize is that was an artificial construct created to be recognized by the government that we have made, from coming from these Judeo-Christian ideals of God being in man and us worshiping the Father and the Son, but having no concept of the mother God and the daughter God. We even title the son, when you have a male boy, you title them after the son. So every time we repeat these words, even by calling your son son, we keep manifesting this false gender construct that men are the day and women are the night. And this is creating some serious imbalances in our society, where it's like women are almost like forced to be assigned the night. Like they're forced, like human trafficking, sex trafficking, women are forced with titles like women of the night or prostitute, versus like they're open. If you had values for the solar feminine energy, you would have appreciation for the song and dance, because that's what women are going to embody better when they are solar. Another example of a solar feminine energy is a mother. The mother aspect is the role, the center role, where when a woman is a mother, they need the man needs to be lunar. So the solar masculine at its like most extreme is a protector. The lunar masculine is a provider. So if you look at the United States society, what do we have too much of? We have too much protection energy, too much military industrial complex. It's vampirically sucking us, like where we're constantly preoccupied with wars in other countries, and we just accepted that we constantly have to be at war. Our movies reflect people constantly blowing people up. Then we have people in the United States not being able to nurture life. So women that are born in the United States only have like 1.6 children. So declining population, because men are not providers. They're only wanting to step into the solar masculine as a protector. They don't want to step into the lunar masculine as a provider. The women are solar. They're the mother. They're the singer and dancer. A lunar woman would be more like a healer, would be like the supportive role. So you have the warrior, you would have a healer. So the wounded warrior would come back to the healer, and that would be like the balance of the lunar feminine to the solar masculine. I think the golden age will be coming with more ease if people understand some of these false programmed roles that they've assigned gender to for so long, that it's caused the last generation to just toss out all gender or just say gender fluid, which I understand why they did that, because of all the false dichotomies that people have slapped on gender. Gender does exist, but it doesn't exist under the false dichotomies that we've assigned it to, especially through religion. So I think in the next few years, a lot of spiritual people are saying we are going to enter the golden age, but it's going to come with a lot of war and a lot of conflict before we do, because of these structures that are confused and don't understand, I think, some of these little tiny basic concepts that are lost in our ancient cultures. But the golden age is not going to be patriarchy or matriarchy, because if you go back, there's even 50,000 years, from my understanding, there was actually too much matriarchy and not enough patriarchy. And now we went the other extreme, where we have too much patriarchy and not enough matriarchy. And I think the next age is going to be matriarchy and patriarchy in unity. It's not going to be like one or the other. Women as sons. Yeah, in Native American cultures and Germanic cultures, before they were influenced by Judeo-Christian religious ideology, it was very common of them to think of women as solar and men as lunar. Men are not the sun, women are not the moon. And I think the earth itself, we like to refer to the earth as a mother, but I think the golden age, we are going to stop. We're going to stop having these gender constructs where we assign the feminine to the earth and the masculine to the sun. Or it's just going to be like we can acknowledge gender without having every dichotomy slapped onto it, of like the feminine is evil or the left-handed path, and the masculine is the righteous or the good path, or the men are the fire and the women are the water. Personally, I'm elementally more water, so it's easy for me to fit into these already assigned gender constructs. But I know very fiery women that are very feminine. If you embody the solar feminine energy, just remember, this isn't about behaving like a man. We have a problem embracing solar feminine energy, and the result is that people think in order to go to concerts or enjoy music or dance, they have to, because they've been programmed to put the feminine solar energy down for so long, they have to do drugs, they have to drink, they have to do get high on a bunch of stuff, ecstasy. But really, in cultures where they're familiar with the solar feminine energy, they don't have to do drugs to accept this energy. The song itself and the dance itself is the drug. That's the healing energy. They don't have to get that messed up to accept the solar feminine, accept the light from the feminine aspect of our existence. So I hope that women can embody their solar energy without being forced to behave like men. So we have to shift the things that we value. We have to value healing, longevity, instead of fire engines and racing and warfare. We have to value rejuvenation, youthing, reverse aging, wisdom, and of course, song and dance. We can't associate that with the night, prostitution, lewdness. We have to openly let the feminine energy exist in a solar way. These roles aren't permanent. Like if you take on a solar role in your lifetime, it doesn't mean you're always going to be solar energy. And if you take on a lunar role, like a supportive role in your life, you're not always going to be lunar. These roles are interchangeable throughout their life. These energies exist in nature, and they also exist in every one of us. Okay, so why do we need more solar feminine energy? Well, okay, for example, we've got overly solar masculine energy, which is the protector. We've got most of our money, like overwhelming amounts of money going to the military industrial complex. So what's the point of protecting, having like this insane military that's like extremely protective, but then you don't have the lunar masculine, the provider, so that the woman can be solar and be a mother, and have children in your own country. So as a result, you're saying you're protecting your country, but you're literally not even supporting children in your own country. So you have to sell out your country to basically the rest of the world because you have so much solar masculine and you don't have enough solar feminine energy, and the solar masculine needs to take on the energy of the lunar masculine. You also need solar feminine energy because if you look at the statistics, the United States has had a lowering life expectancy since 2013, where it started to basically oscillate and lower for a while. We have a lowering life expectancy and rising suicide rates. If you look at the areas where blue zones, where there's that people live the longest and there's the greatest percentage of people who live beyond 100 years old, you will find that they have a balance of matriarchy and patriarchy. Every week at least, everybody gets together and sings and dances together. And because matriarchy is allowed to exist in a solar way, people don't get completely messed up on alcohol or drugs in order to embody the healing energy of song and dance. Song and dance are very healing energies when you are not resistant to them, when you don't need to do a bunch of drugs to accept it. So vibration, sound healing, this is probably going to be the future of our healing. We need a balance. But what we need more of right now is we need more solar feminine. And what we need more of right now is more lunar masculine. And this isn't always going to be the case, which is why you can't, it's just not right to be assigning men to the sun and women to the moon, or men to the moon and women to the sun. The more multidimensional we become, the more we understand that every binary that exists doesn't need to be applied to every aspect of gender. This isn't a matter of women being assigned to the sun and men being assigned to the moon and reversing everything. This is just a matter of what do we need more of right now at this point in time to balance the imbalances that are causing problems in our society. Here's to 2024, the return of the solar feminine energy.